5 is a lovely number because it gives you lots of choice in what activity you want to pick out because you know your group, your team, your context best. So I'm gonna give you 5 different types of team building activities, but these are a little bit unique compared to some video tutorials that you'd find around the internet. Because in this video, I'm gonna give you 5 categories that allow you to weave team building into what you're already doing. So what I'm gonna suggest is not gonna say, hey, take an hour and go do this. It's gonna say, what's your regular meeting cadence? When are you normally gathering, or how do you normally gather? And can you just weave these ingredients into each? So I'm gonna unpack these 5 ingredients as well as share an example for each so that by the end of this video, what's in my brain will be in your brain. And I have some things that I've learned having worked with tens of thousands of leaders and educators around the world in a remote context to help make connection and engagement easy. I'm Chad Littlefield, and I'm excited to hang out with you in cyberspace. Let's get going. The other advantage to the way that I'm gonna share these 5 is that for the critics and curmudgeons in the room who hear the word team building or icebreaker and get hives on their back, this is a really friendly way to weave in meaningful connection into what you're already doing. Whereas if we say, hey, we're gonna go do an offsite for 4 hours, right? Some people might really love that and some people might not. And so I think just like getting healthy happens little bits, little mini choices at a time, I think building your team and your team getting to know each other and gelling and creating that cohesion happens little bits and sips at a time. It doesn't always happen in just one gigantic gulp on a random Tuesday. So the first idea or concept is a phrase I got from Mark Collard in Australia, lovely facilitator, and it is this idea of an unofficial start. And it basically says before your regular meetings, if you still have a regular meeting that starts at 8 a.m., be on a few minutes before for an unofficial start and run that unofficial start a few minutes after the official start time, and it's designed to spark immediate and purposeful engagement. And so one that I've been playing with lately that I kind of like is as people are logging on as the host, just holding up images or objects and saying, what does this make you think of? What does this make you think of? Or what does this remind you of? What is your favorite story related to laundry, right? Just using imagery or objects as a little bit of a pull or a draw to invite people to come off mute and share before the meeting has even begun. And the reason I like this is when you're meeting virtually, all the organic connection and conversation that happens when you're meeting in person isn't there. And it's not gonna happen organically. And so, which is actually a gift because it means that we get to be a little bit more intentional with our connection. And so all of these add a little bit of intention, a little bit of structure, a little bit of prompting, but they end up creating some of that organic connection that I think all of us miss from in-person gatherings. Number 2 is context hook. Now, typically I share this as a presentation technique of if you're presenting something at a meeting, you wanna get a context hook. So you wanna say, hey, the rest of this video is gonna be a painkiller for the next 100+ hours of virtual meetings and gatherings you have, right? You see that's like a context hook. It's like, ooh, maybe I wanna stick around for the end of this meeting to see what Chad has to say. In a team building context, I would invite you to think about context hooks really simply as inviting the group to share what their intention is for any given gathering. It is amazing how frequently we meet when the intention isn't totally clear, or your intention might be clear as the leader or the facilitator in that moment, but each individual might not understand the overarching intention or purpose. And so I think the best form of turning a context hook into a little mini team building ongoing team building exercise is to check in to say, by the end of this meeting, what would you love to have accomplished? What is your intention in this gathering? I know that's not sexy. It's not like a cool, it doesn't involve balloons or anything flashy or fun or confetti as far as team building goes, but I would say that it absolutely will help build your team the more intentional and deliberate each gathering and meeting you have is. Third one, some of my favorite. Phrase came from Peter Block. It's this idea of connection before content. There are a whole variety of ways to create connection before content. We have tons of resources on our website that's linked below on how to create connection before content. But the original way to create connection before content, way back in the prehistoric ages, was really simply come up with a question that connects people to each other, connects to the purpose of why you're there, and allows, or at least gives the option or choice for authenticity and vulnerability from people. Break out into little groups, have a conversation about that, and then come back and popcorn out what struck you about that conversation. Popcorn out what people noticed, what they observed in those conversations. What it does is just like take the group's interactivity and raises it up 5 notches compared to a typical gathering or meeting. And then the second thing that it does is it takes the group's self-awareness and raises it up. When you do that debrief, when you have all those small groups come back and say, what'd you learn? What struck you? What'd you notice about those conversations? The group's awareness of each other, of what's happening, goes way up. It's really hard to think about what you're doing next Friday when you're just immersed in this conversation with 1 or 2 other people. If you want a bunch of template questions, there's a link below. I have a free list of some of our absolute favorite questions. And you could literally take those questions and just make them the start of every weekly meeting for the next year, and you'd have woven team building into your world. The 4th category of virtual team building I'm gonna put in is actually content. This is kind of weird because you don't usually think about the content and the business part of a meeting as an opportunity for team building. And I would say it's an amazing opportunity for team building because any piece of content, every single person has some connection to it. Even if the connection is, I hate talking about this has nothing to do with my job, that is a connection that person has to content. And so one of the best things you can do if you're doing a report out, you're presenting slides, you're doing anything that's content heavy, insert a little space or a blank slide if you're living on PowerPoint. Insert a blank slide or a blank space for 1 minute of contribution at least every 7 minutes. So every 7 minutes of consumption, infuse at least 1 minute of contribution. And that could literally be a visual gesture. One of the fun example ways that I like to turn content or to just do a little check-in on content is an alphabet Likert scale, which Likert scale, on a scale of 1 to 10, how you doing? 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. Alphabet Likert scale is Z is the best and A is the worst. Gives you a little bit more of a spectrum. But what you can also do that's kind of fun on Zoom, if people have their video on, is invite people to draw the letter that they represent. So let's see if you can guess what letters. I'm not sure which orientation this is gonna show up in. Point is, in Zoom, in gallery view, having people draw their letters and then take a stab at where people are at. It's just, again, something novel to tune into content, a way for you to check in with the group, to do a little pulse check. Is everybody awake? Are you alive? Did you have enough coffee? Etc. The final category is closing. We so often end our meetings in a hurry and forget to end with something really deliberate. Now you can end with a check out question. So you could use the same question as you would use for connection before content. One of my favorite check out or closing questions is, what is something you would like to do more of? And I might edit the context. What is something you'd like to do more of this week? And it's just a way to kind of leave the meeting with action, leave the meeting with something clear, some clear ending. Linked below is also a 2-part video series where I unpack 5 of my favorite closing exercises. So feel free to check those out to help kind of keep your remote team together by being deliberate about the last 5 to 7 minutes of how you're ending. And in fact, I'd love to end this video with a closing exercise. So instead of my normal, hey, have an awesome day and outro closing, what I'd love for you to do is in the comments below, drop a closing statement that summarizes, and this is one of my favorite closing exercises, by the way, that I got from Nate Folan. It's called Group Anthem. And it's really simply inviting a group to make a closing statement at the end of a gathering or meeting. The only catch is that closing statement has to begin with one of 3 phrases. Either I am, I believe, or I will. And so feel free, if you like this video and you stuck around to this point, go ahead and drop a comment with some statement that begins with either I am, I believe, or I will. I'm Chad, have an awesome day.